How's it going, Kevin? Thanks for reaching out to us, and we have your video here ready to roll. Before we look at your lap and try to find you a bit more speed in your Scion here, I wanted to talk to you about your performance in the race. We did watch your race. I thought your racecraft was really good. I really liked the pass around the outside on Steve. I thought that was pretty cool to see a car go around the outside of turn 6 right there. Just happy to see you out on a track racing as well, and it was good to have you join us at the racing clinic that we did at Apex. So I know you're looking for speed here. Usually what we do is we play the whole track and do one lap at speed and then dissect corner by corner, but I have it queued up right now just so that we can start working on spending a bit more time at each corner. So if you follow here with this blue circle, we're going to pause at certain items like the throttle, the brake pedal, you know, your hand position, reference points like the cones over here and the curbing and so forth. So we're going to work with you through turn 12 here. Here we go. One quick thing right here, this is just a little bit of general housekeeping from a safety perspective, is the last few trips I've seen drivers hit this curb pretty hard. It's one of the fastest corners that Apex have. You know, some cars are upwards of, let's see here, you're at 100 miles an hour. I've seen some cars at 130 even there. Hitting that curb aggressively is pretty upsetting to the car. We've seen cars even over rotate here as a result of getting up on that curb and making their way all the way up along that guardrail right there. So just food for thought, don't really attack that curb heavily. You want the car nice and planted, level, nice and even through there. Maybe if you just nick the edge of it, that's fine, but just plan for limited curb usage there at this amount of speed. But your hand position looks good here at 9 and 3. Your line through here looks really good. Your full throttle, which we like to see, and now we're going to see where you're braking. So you're coming off the throttle here and you are braking. So one thing I noticed right away is the slow lift on the throttle, and then there seems to be a little bit of a gap before the brake starts to come on. If we could reduce some of that time, and we're talking about tenths of a second here, just throttle, 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 lift, brake a little harder, just to remove some of that time right there, it's going to help a lot. You'll be surprised, and do that everywhere. So we'll look at the other corners as well. I'm just going to rewind that just a little bit. Bear with me here, just to show you that again. So here we go through 12. Nice line. There's that long lift. And it's right now that you're coasting. Nothing's really happening, right? So you just want to lift, brake. And what we are looking for here is just a light drag of the brake somewhere around the Apex logo, just a light brush of the brake. It's not much at all. I mean, we're talking about like a 2 or 3 brake pedal pressure. And with this car, we can probably do it a little bit later even than the Apex logo, but it's a lighter brake pedal. And I think the biggest gain we have for you here, and I look forward to hopefully working with you at the track on this, and I know we spoke about it on the phone, is you go down to 3rd gear here. I think you can do this corner in 4th gear. So you'd be coming along there at 100 miles an hour, you just drag in the brake, roll off the brake, and just carry all this momentum, I mean a big head of steam, all the way down to your apex here, and then feed on the throttle aggressively and do it all in 4th gear. Right now, with that approach, you'd be in 4th gear and the car would just be on the ragged edge, just to where your heart rate's up really high. As long as your line is good, you'd just be hopping and skipping across this bump here all the way down to that cone right there. And what that would also get rid of is that little additional throttle spike that I just heard on the audio here. I could see it. I just saw the throttle come back up again. So now we're going to try this now in 4th gear, and in doing so, I think you'll find once you nail it that your mile an hour is going to go up, right? And then you're going to be wide open on the throttle in 4th, braking, and then down to third here. And what I noticed now is your lift off the throttle and your transition to brake was a lot quicker going into 3 than it was in 12. So that's what we're looking for. If we could replicate that now, move that over to 12, it will help. So here we go down into turn 3. Nice trail brake. So one thing that I've noticed with these Scions, and I have this picture in my head, and I just spent 2 days at Roebling Road in one, got back yesterday, I think we did over 160 laps around this track. With these Scions, if your line and trajectory is where you need it, we're always on the throttle before the apex because they're lower horsepower cars. So right about now, here is where you'd want to see the green start ramping up on throttle. So just a little bit earlier throttle. And you'd want it to be progressive, just moving across at the same kind of pace. I've noticed with a lot of your exits that you're at about, about 1/3 throttle or so right here, maybe a little more, closer to a half here. Then right at the end, there's a big stab, right? Just make it one linear drive off the corner, if that makes sense. So now we're heading down into turn 3 here. So it feels and looks, if you see the cone right here, that was just a little bit of an earlier turn-in than you'd like, right? So I'd work on that. I remember watching one of your laps, maybe this is one of them, where see the earlier throttle that time? That's good. You want to do that. So if you could bring that approach to turn 2, it's going to help. That's exactly what I wanted to see, this level of throttle before the apex in this car. Okay, so the exit is good. I think just a slightly later turn-in will help. Just try it. I also like the fact that you're on the throttle before the apex. Everything looks nice and calm and smooth and composed. So we're going to give you kudos on turn 3 there. Just a slightly later turn-in I think will help. And a lot of times with these cars, these momentum cars, sometimes I like to kind of pitch them in just a later turn-in, but with a slight flick of the wrist. And this is something we can work on at the track together if we get that opportunity, kind of like a little bit of a pitch in, like a go-kart. So it rotates around, early throttle. Just a driving style you pick up on. So now we're in 4th gear, heading down into the chicane. That was all really good. I'm impressed with all of this. This is good. Curb, curb. Here, a lot of cars, I'm trying everything I can to just be full throttle as soon as possible. So one thing, right about now, if we could find a way without buzzing the rear tires, if you could be flat out right now, just a little bit sooner so that your drive out of here is as efficient and fast as possible, because it is another straight that we're leading onto before we head into turn 4. So just feeling right now, having not driven your car, but just earlier throttle here, just wide open, floor it. Yeah, 3rd's a tall enough gear to where you can be earlier throttle coming through and out of the chicane. So just make a mental note of that one, earlier throttle. It's going to help you. 4th. So coming out of turn 4, if we could take what you're doing here and apply it to 2 and 3 as far as how the throttle comes on, it just seems to come on more progressively in one smooth kind of sense of rhythm and cadence. I like the throttle application here. So you should be in 2nd gear here. One other little secret with these cars, I think there's a little bit of time if you go over the curbing here on your exit. I've tried it in lower horsepower cars. The more you open the wheel, the faster you go, the more you free the car up. I know you can't see it because of the steering wheel and the dash here, but over here there's the curbing, and then where all of this paved runoff area is, it sort of meets it in a corner. I've sometimes will take a car way up over that curb. I've even heard that some of the faster drivers in the Radical Cup series are doing that, using the whole curbing that is available to them on the outside of turn 4. Fourth. So in looking at this would be really fun to experiment with. I know you're in second gear in turn 4. If we could take a wider line on your exit, use the curbing to go over it, to find a way to get a bit more corner exit speed, you might find that eventually you're up into 5th gear here. So I think in the Winfield BMW, the car that Steve races and that I'm lucky enough to get to drive now and then, I think we're up into 5th gear in that car. The MX-5 Cup car is up into 5th gear here. And look at your RPM here. We're 7,418 RPM in 4th gear. I think we can get you up into 5th gear here. It wouldn't be for a long period of time, but it's going to help. The other thing I would be curious to know is what exactly is the peak torque on your car? Where does it fall flat? If it's 7,200, right now we're at 7,418. We're just losing the ability to keep accelerating. We're throwing away some of that drive, right? So, and this for you as a race car driver, I would explore with this. How do I get an extra mile or 2 an hour coming off of 2? How do I, and will it help me get into 4th gear? What if I short shift a little earlier here at 72, maybe? Something that allows us to get up into 5th gear. And in doing so, I'm wondering, and this is where this is really, really fun, right? If we can do turn 6 now in 4th gear versus 3rd gear. I'm not sure if you've tried that one yet, but I would definitely, on a test day when you're out there, explore with 5th down to 4th and trying turn 6 here in 4th gear. A lot of race cars were actually in 4th here. Some are in 3rd, depends on the gear ratio. But for your efforts right now in turn 6, I know we're in 3rd gear, a little bit glary with the sun, but as soon as we get down to this cone on the inside, we got to find a way to really, really be aggressive and hard on the throttle. And right now we're pretty high in the RPM again. You know, do we want to shift into 4th? I've seen some drivers go down to 3rd and back to 4th and then back down to 3rd in turn 7 here. Or do we just focus on precision and as much momentum as you can around that corner in 4th gear? You might find that we arrive at turn 7 now even quicker, and then we would only need to go down to 3rd gear from 4th gear. So this is all the fun in what we're doing. So your line right through here, I think, is good, but one thing I want to help you with is a lot of drivers are discussing and debating what is the line and where do I brake. So what I like about this corner here, and some people aren't even aware of this, but these boards right here, they've put out on the left to kind of help guide you with some level of reference really as to where to brake. Typically I'm braking before this board and the board that's likely to the left of you right here, somewhere in the middle. A lot of drivers, when it comes to the line, are talking about this mountaintop and this mountaintop and this tree. I'm not really that driver. What I can tell you is I always try to line my left sides up right about here. These marks have all been laid down by professional level SRO teams, World Challenge teams, some of the Formula 3 drivers that have been here testing. These are the inside left front tires on those cars. That's the line you want to be on. So it kind of looks like to me that you'd want to be a little bit slightly further over to the right. Another thing I can tell you about turn 7 is we know we're turning and braking, but just think about it the next time you get into this corner. How can I kind of get in with as straight an arc as possible and then rotate it and turn it again back into turn 7 we all know that the straighter the wheel is in your hands under braking, the better braking efficiency and ability you have, right? A car is always going to stop at its best in a straight line. So things to be thinking about when you head down into turn 7 right here. Explore with 4th gear in turn 6. Just try it. But right now we're heading down into 7. 3rd gear down to 2nd. So you'd want to go from 3rd to 2nd. So all of what you're doing through here I think is really good. Just widen out the entry a little bit. This to me looks good. And then right here I'm looking for full throttle. Perfect. Brake. This is good. Back up to 3rd. All right. So right now, what we need to be seeing is a solid green right here. We can be flat out all the way further to almost this point right here. There's just a little bit too much coasting going here, too much going on where there's no throttle input. So let me rewind that a little bit, because this I think is important. There's a decent amount of time right here for you, Kevin. So here we are. Full throttle, 3rd, stay full throttle till about here. Even if you need to just brush the brake a little bit, round out that corner, use a little bit of curb right here, you can just stay on full throttle just a little bit longer. It's going to help. So now you're in 3rd, and then right here, full throttle, all greens. That's another little helpful tip for you there. After that left-hander there, which is 10, all greens, full throttle again to this point, brake, and now we're going to go back down to 2nd gear. I like your line through here. I think that the cone that they have there is a little bit too late. I always turn in a little before the cone, just like you are here. So I think this is good. So right now, I'm watching the throttle slowly come up. This can all be done flat out, right? So I think in the lap prior, I watched you short shift a little bit here. You shifted a little earlier than you would otherwise shift in other areas of the track, but right now, there's a little bit of a lift. There's a little bit of a lift. And now you're flat out. So a little bit of time there for you. And you'll see it. It's all right here in the greens. This is going to be 4th gear. Great job on the trail braking. This corner, remember, earlier throttle in 2. All right, so the last thing I'm thinking here is, it's a very positive. I'm watching your seating position as much as I can see here. I'm watching your demeanor in the car and your hand position. You look very smooth and composed. I like where your hands are at 9 and 3. Anytime I drive these cars or a momentum car, to get that last little bit out of it, you have to be really on a knife edge with these cars, because you don't have 500, 600, 700 horsepower at your disposal, but what you have is momentum, and you have your ability to just keep as much momentum up as you can. So a lot of the times, if I look at the in-car of me driving these cars, there's lots of little corrections, or that there's a little bit of a slide coming off the corner, because I don't want to give away any momentum I have. I'm willing to deal with a little bit of oversteer here and there to keep my foot in it, if that makes sense. So I think all of this comes in due time. I know this is a newer car for you. I love the fact that you're racing it. But as you get more comfortable with it, a little bit more aggression and a little bit more trust in the car as far as its lateral grip. How much can I lean into this car into a corner, and how soon can I get on the throttle? I would start exploring with earlier throttle. even if it's so early as to you're going to get a step out or a little bit of a rotation coming off the corner, I think exploring with a little bit of that is going to be helpful and help you go quicker. Just being a little bit more aggressive and trusting in the car. Otherwise, I think it was a great lap. I think there's plenty to work on there. I would love to go out there one day and drive the car with you. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And if I remember correctly, there was a second seat. So I would love to ride along with you, or we'll take turns driving and riding. Otherwise, great job. Looking forward to seeing you at the next race in April, and thanks for reaching out to us. Cheers.